Is this some kind of joke? I asked, my voice trembling as I clutched the phone tightly. My parents' voices crackled on the other end, distant and indifferent. No joke, Daniel. My mother's voice was firm, almost resolute. We've been discussing this for a while, and we've come to a decision. But why? You know how much this house means to me. I was pacing now, the floorboards creaking beneath my feet as if echoing my distress. Look, son, it's not about what the house means to you. It's about what's practical, my father cut in, his tone brusque. You don't have a family, no kids, no spouse. It's just sitting here empty most of the time. Your brother needs a place, and this is a good opportunity for him. I stared at the walls of my living room, feeling a sense of betrayal as if the very bricks were conspiring against me. But he has a house of his own. It's not like he's living on the street. Yes, but his house is too small for his growing family, my mother replied, her voice softening slightly but still carrying that air of finality. We've made our decision, and it's not up for discussion. I wanted to argue more, to plead my case, but the determination in their voices told me it was futile. They were done with this conversation. Fine. When should I expect him? There was a pause before my mother said, he'll be there next week. We've already arranged for the movers. The line went dead, and I was left staring at the receiver, a wave of helplessness washing over me. The house wasn't just a structure, it was a part of who I was. Every corner held memories, and the idea of someone else living here felt like an intrusion. A knock at the door jolted me from my thoughts. I opened it to find my brother, Tom, standing there with a hesitant smile. He looked just as uneasy as I felt. Hey, Danny, he said, shuffling his feet awkwardly. Can we talk? Yeah, sure, I said, stepping aside to let him in. Come on in. It's not like I have much of a choice now, anyway. Tom's face fell slightly at my tone, but he didn't say anything. We sat down in the living room, the silence stretching between us as if the walls themselves were holding their breath. So, he started, rubbing the back of his neck, I know this must be really hard for you. Hard? I echoed, my voice rising. It's more than hard, Tom. It feels like a betrayal. I thought this place was my refuge, my sanctuary. I didn't want any of this, Tom said quickly. It's not like I asked for it. I just got caught up in the middle of it. I know, I said, my anger fading into resignation. It's not your fault. It's just that, well, it's my home, you know? It's where I feel safe. I get it, Tom said, nodding. I really do. But it's not just about me and my family needing space. Mom and Dad think it's the right thing to do, and, well, it's hard to argue with them. I guess it is, I said, sinking into the couch. But it doesn't make it any easier. When they told me, I felt like everything I knew was being taken away. Tom sat down next to me, his expression sympathetic. Look, I'm not here to make excuses. I just want to say that I'll try my best to take care of the place. I know it means a lot to you. Thanks, I said, trying to muster a small smile. I appreciate that. It's just, how do you even start moving into someone else's home? Tom looked thoughtful. I suppose we'll just take it one step at a time. Maybe keep some of the things you've had here as a reminder. And if you want to come by and visit, you're always welcome. That's something, at least, I said, though the thought of seeing someone else in my home still felt like a betrayal. I guess I'll start packing up. Tom nodded and stood up. If you need help, let me know. I know it's a lot to handle. Will do, I said, watching him head towards the door. As he left, I felt a strange mix of emotions, resentment, sadness, and a hint of relief. The reality of my new situation was starting to sink in, and though I was still in shock, I knew that life had a way of pushing us forward, even when we weren't ready. The days that followed were a blur of packing boxes and trying to come to terms with the change. The house that had once been my sanctuary was now a place I was preparing to leave, and as I sorted through my belongings, I couldn't help but feel a pang of loss. It wasn't just the physical space that I was leaving behind, it was the memories, the life I had built within these walls, and the sense of security that came with it. With each box I packed, I tried to hold on to the good times, the laughter, and the warmth that had filled this place. And though it was hard to imagine someone else living here, I hoped that Tom and his family would find their own comfort and happiness in the house that had once been mine. The morning of the move arrived with a sky as gray and overcast as my mood. I had spent the night barely sleeping, tossing and turning as I tried to come to terms with everything that was happening. Now, the day was upon me, and I could hear the distant hum of moving trucks outside. I rubbed my eyes and tried to shake off the lingering remnants of sleep and anxiety. As I wandered through the house, the emptiness was palpable. Boxes were stacked in neat piles, some labeled with the words fragile or kitchen, Others left blank as if their contents were still a mystery. The walls, usually adorned with photos and mementos, seemed even more barren now, stripped of their decorations and personal touch. Another knock on the door brought me out of my reverie. I opened it to find Tom, holding a box marked with books in black marker. His wife, Sarah, and their 2 kids, Emily and Jack, were behind him, busy unloading boxes from the truck. "Morning, Danny," Tom said, forcing a cheerful tone that didn't quite reach his eyes. "Morning," I replied, stepping aside to let them in. "I see you've already started." "Yeah, we're trying to get a head start," Sarah said, offering a sympathetic smile. "We didn't want to be in the way while you're still packing." "Thanks," I said, though the gesture felt somewhat hollow. "It's just a lot to take in." "I can only imagine," Sarah said, setting down the box and looking around. "We're really grateful for this place. It's going to make a huge difference for us." "Yeah," I said, glancing around at the house that was rapidly losing its sense of self. "I hope you guys will be happy here." Emily, who looked to be about 10, peeked into the living room, her eyes wide with curiosity. "This is a really nice house, Uncle Danny. It's bigger than ours." Jack, who was around 7, tugged at his father's sleeve. "Dad, can I help? I want to carry boxes too." Tom chuckled and nodded. "Sure thing, buddy. Just be careful with the delicate stuff." As the kids ran off to join the moving crew, Tom and Sarah began organizing their own tasks. The morning passed in a blur of activity. I helped as much as I could, but it was hard to shake the feeling of being a guest in my own home. Each item I packed seemed to echo with memories of the past, and it was difficult to let go. "Do you need any more help?" Tom asked as he saw me struggling with a particularly heavy box. "No, I think I'm good," I said, forcing a smile. "I just want to finish up here and make sure everything's in order before I go." "All right," Tom said, clapping me on the back. "If you change your mind, just let us know. We're here all day." I nodded, watching as they moved around the house with practiced efficiency. It was strange to see how easily they adapted to the space, filling it with their own energy and plans. The house, which had been my sanctuary, was slowly transforming into something new. By late afternoon, most of the heavy lifting was done. The movers had finished, and the house was nearly empty. Tom, Sarah, and the kids were sitting in the living room, taking a break from their efforts. "I guess this is it," I said, standing in the doorway. "Everything's packed up, and it's time for me to go." "Yeah," Tom said, standing up. "I really appreciate all your help today. It's been a big day for everyone." "It has," I agreed. "I hope you all settle in quickly and make it feel like home." Sarah gave me a reassuring smile. "We will. And remember, if you ever want to come by and visit, just let us know. You'll always be welcome here." "Thanks," I said, feeling a lump in my throat. "I might take you up on that offer." With a final glance around the house, I stepped out the front door and closed it behind me. The key felt heavy in my hand, a symbol of the end of an era. I took a deep breath, trying to steady my emotions as I walked to my car. As I drove away, the house receded in the rearview mirror, becoming just a distant silhouette against the horizon. The road ahead seemed uncertain, filled with the promise of new beginnings but also the weight of what I was leaving behind. I tried to focus on the road, on the miles ahead, but my mind kept drifting back to the house, to the memories, and to the realization that nothing would ever quite be the same again. Chapter 3, Starting Over. The first few days after leaving the house were a whirlwind of emotions and adjustments. I found myself staying at a small, rented apartment, a far cry from the spacious, comforting home I had left behind. The new space was functional but lacked the warmth and familiarity I had grown accustomed to. I spent the days unpacking the few belongings I had managed to bring with me and trying to establish some semblance of normalcy. The apartment was located in a bustling part of town, and while it had its perks, like a nearby coffee shop and a park just down the street, it felt foreign, almost impersonal. One morning, as I sipped my coffee and stared out the window at the busy street below, I received a call from Tom. "Hey, Danny," he said, sounding upbeat. "I just wanted to check in and see how you're doing." "I'm managing," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "It's a lot to take in, though. Everything feels so different." "Yeah, I can imagine," Tom replied sympathetically. "We're starting to get settled in, but it's a bit of a process. The kids are adjusting well, though they miss you." "Tell them I miss them too," I said, a small smile tugging at my lips. "And thanks for calling. It's nice to hear a familiar voice." "Of course," Tom said. "And if you need anything, just let us know. We're all here for you." "Thanks," I repeated, feeling a bit better after the conversation. "I'll keep that in mind." The next few weeks were a mix of settling into the new apartment and adjusting to the changes in my life. I tried to keep busy, exploring the new neighborhood and meeting new people. I joined a local gym, started frequenting the coffee shop downstairs, and even began attending a weekly book club to meet new friends. One evening, as I was returning from a particularly engaging book club meeting, I decided to call my old neighbors to catch up. It was strange not having them around the corner, but I was grateful for their continued friendship. "Hello?" Mrs. Anderson's voice came through the receiver, warm and familiar. "Hi, Mrs. Anderson, it's Daniel," I said, smiling despite the distance. "I just wanted to check in and see how everyone's doing." "Oh, Daniel," she exclaimed. "It's so good to hear from you. We've been thinking about you. How are you settling in?" "It's been a bit of a roller coaster," I admitted. "The new place is nice, but it's just not the same. I miss the old neighborhood and all the familiar faces." "I can imagine," she said sympathetically. "But I'm sure you'll find your way. And remember, you're always welcome here if you want to visit." "Thank you," I said, touched by her kindness. "I might just take you up on that offer sometime." As the weeks turned into months, I found myself slowly adjusting to the new normal. The apartment, though different, began to feel more like home. I grew to appreciate the small things, like the view of the park from my window and the friendly barista at the coffee shop. Despite the changes, I often thought about the house and the family that now lived there. I hoped that Tom, Sarah, Emily, and Jack were making happy memories of their own and finding the comfort and security that I once did. The transition had been difficult, but I was learning to find new ways to build a sense of home in this unfamiliar place. One crisp autumn afternoon, I decided to visit the old neighborhood. I parked a few streets away and walked over to the house. The sight of it, with its freshly painted exterior and the sound of children playing in the yard, was bittersweet. I stood across the street for a moment, taking it all in. Tom noticed me from the front porch and waved. I raised my hand in return, feeling a mix of emotions. He came over to the sidewalk, and we exchanged a few words. "Hey, Danny," he said. "It's good to see you." "Yeah, you too," I replied. "The place looks great." "Thanks," Tom said with a smile. "We've been working hard to make it feel like home." "I can see that," I said, feeling a sense of peace. "I'm glad it's working out for you guys." Tom nodded. "And if you ever need anything or just want to talk, don't hesitate to reach out." "I won't," I promised. "Thanks for everything." As I walked back to my car, I felt a sense of closure and acceptance. The house was no longer mine, but the memories I had made there would always be a part of me. And while the future remained uncertain, I was beginning to find my own way forward, one step at a time. The months rolled by, and the seasons changed, painting the world outside in vibrant hues of autumn and winter. The apartment, once foreign and sterile, had become a place of comfort. I had managed to create a small sanctuary within its confines, filling it with books, plants, and a few personal touches that made it feel like home. One chilly December evening, as snowflakes began to drift lazily down from the sky, I received a surprise letter in the mail. It was from Tom. I hadn't heard from him in a while, and the unexpected communication sparked a mix of curiosity and apprehension. The letter was handwritten, and as I unfolded it, the familiar scrawl of Tom's handwriting brought a smile to my face. "Dear Danny, I hope this letter finds you well. We've been meaning to write to you for a while, but life has been a whirlwind. Things have settled down now, and we wanted to reach out. The house has truly become a home for us. The kids have made it their own, with their laughter filling the rooms that once echoed with your solitude. We've done some decorating and made a few changes, but we've tried to keep the essence of the place intact. We're creating new memories here, and it feels like we're slowly making it our own. I wanted to let you know that you're always welcome to visit us whenever you want. The door is always open. We've been talking about having a small get-together soon, and it would be wonderful if you could join us. We'd love to catch up and show you how the house has transformed. Please let us know if you're up for it. And, if not, that's okay too. We understand that things have changed, and it might be a lot to take in. Looking forward to hearing from you soon. Warm regards. Tom." I read the letter twice, savoring each word. It was a thoughtful gesture, and the invitation to visit brought a sense of warmth and relief. I realized that despite the upheaval, the bonds of family and friendship were still strong. As the holidays approached, I decided to accept Tom's invitation. It felt like the right time to reconnect and see how they had settled into their new home. I made arrangements to visit, booking a train ticket and planning to stay for a few days. The train ride to my old neighborhood was a journey both physically and emotionally. The familiar landscape whizzed by, and as I approached the town, memories of the past few months and my previous life in that house came rushing back. When I arrived at Tom's home, it was like stepping into a holiday card. The house was decorated with twinkling lights, festive garlands, and a beautifully adorned Christmas tree in the living room window. The sight of it brought a lump to my throat. Tom greeted me warmly at the door, his face lighting up with a genuine smile. "Danny. It's so good to see you." "You too," I said, hugging him. "The house looks amazing." "Thanks," Tom said, stepping aside to let me in. "Come on in. We've been looking forward to having you here." As I walked inside, the warmth of the house enveloped me. The smell of cinnamon and pine filled the air, and the cozy ambience was a welcome contrast to the cold outside. Sarah was busy in the kitchen, and the kids rushed over to greet me with enthusiastic hugs. "Uncle Danny!" Emily and Jack exclaimed in unison. "Hey, you too," I said, smiling as they pulled me into their excitement. "I've missed you guys." "It's so nice to have you here," Sarah said, coming over with a warm smile. "We've been looking forward to this." We spent the evening catching up and enjoying a delicious holiday dinner. The conversation flowed easily, and it felt like no time had passed at all. We reminisced about old times, shared stories about the house, and discussed the future with hopeful anticipation. After dinner, we gathered around the fireplace, and Tom pulled out a box of old family photos. We spent hours flipping through the pictures, laughing at the memories and sharing stories that had long been buried in the past. At one point, as I sat back and watched the family interact, I felt a profound sense of peace. The house that had once been mine was now a place filled with new joy and laughter. I could see how Tom and his family had made it their own, and it was comforting to know that it was in good hands. Later that evening, as I was about to head to bed, Tom pulled me aside. "I wanted to thank you for coming. It means a lot to us." "No problem," I said, feeling a mix of gratitude and relief. "It's been good to reconnect and see how things are going." Tom smiled, his eyes reflecting the warmth of the fire. "And I wanted to let you know that if you ever want to come back for a longer visit, or even just stop by, you're always welcome. This place is as much yours as it is ours." I nodded, touched by his words. "I'll definitely keep that in mind. It's good to know that I have a place here." As I settled into the guest room for the night, I looked around at the room that had been prepared with care. It was clear that Tom and his family had put a lot of thought into making it comfortable for me. The feeling of belonging was strong, and I realized that while the house had changed, the essence of what made it special had not been lost. The next few days were filled with more laughter, warmth, and cherished moments. As I prepared to leave, I felt a renewed sense of connection and hope. The house that had been the backdrop to so many of my own memories was now the setting for new ones, and that brought a sense of closure and satisfaction. The train ride back was quieter, but the landscape seemed less distant. I had come full circle, and while the house was no longer mine, I had found a new appreciation for the bonds that held us together and the ability to create new memories, no matter where life took us. As the train carried me away from the town and back to my own life, I looked forward with a sense of peace and acceptance. The past was part of who I was, but the future held its own promise of new beginnings and opportunities. And with that, I knew I was ready to embrace whatever came next.